G'day guys, welcome back. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching the Wildkard Rugby Show. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yes, I am traveling. I am currently house sitting at my mom's rice farm. And yes, it's a bit different. The camera might not be that great, and if it's really bad, I'll buy a new camera before the next recording next week. Luckily, you'll have a bit of a time off for rugby, but hey, the news always continues in the world of rugby. And yeah. First up, okay, my bed is like right here, and I've got a laptop sitting here where I do the recording here, and as I was setting up for the recording, I lifted up my laptop. There was a huge spider under the laptop, and I'm actually a little bit scared because I hesitated. I should have just like slapped it and killed it, right? I hesitated, and it like ran away, and now I have no idea where it is. There's some book sitting here, and my bed is here. It's just like gone. So yeah, in the middle of the night, this thing could just crawl up into my mouth and I might die. But hey, wish me luck, okay? So yes, I did actually, when I got some insects killer, I just like sprayed it everywhere. Hopefully that's enough. But wish me luck. Just to give an idea what it actually looked like. It literally looked like that, okay? And it just ran away. Okay, it is quite scary. But hey, let's move on before people starting to, before the children start crying with the image of the spider. But hey, let's talk about rugby, and that is what despite the little break we have heading into the November invasion series, okay, where the Southerners will invade the Northerners for supremacy, and we need some super, desperately need some wins over the Northerners, especially when they're at home, so we can get maximum Rugby World ranking points down south. And yes, there's a big few games coming up in a few weeks. But first up, speaking of news, the big news came out of Australia last weekend is the fact that the Melbourne Rebels, as we probably talked about in the past, has officially decided to sue Rugby Australia. The management is pretty poor. The people that were the consortium that came out to sort of like try to save the Melbourne Rebels, they're basically like the people that mates with the people that ran the team into the ground. I think the one of the daughter of the consortium member was like literally a management at the Rebels, and yeah, that's basically the idea. You have your dad to come bail yourself out, right? And Rugby Australia was just not having it. They just didn't want to continue with the trying to keep the poor management alive essentially and shut the business down. So the Melbourne Rebels is going to sue Rugby Australia, and under the idea that Rugby Australia has wasted a lot of money and didn't quite do their best to keep the Melbourne Rebel alive. And it includes, the highlight isn't working as well, so I might struggle a little bit to find out the key points here. But let's continue with it. So yeah, failed to fund funding responsibilities for the Rebels, and there was a big call for Rugby Australia to order them open their books so that everybody can see whether Rugby Australia has done a good enough job to support the team, to support the keeping the Rebels funding. I mean, the Rebels might have a bit of a point. They did mention that the Rugby Australia wasted a lot of money. There was like a $2.3 million, I think it was, last year, like overspending, unaccounted overspending, essentially embezzlement. People basically stole the money, in my opinion, at the Rugby World Cup last year. So, if you didn't even make it through the pool stage, how could you overspend over $2 million? It's beyond my understanding, comprehensions. And so basically Rebels are taking stuff like that, and maybe the Swali deal, stuff like that, to try and ping down on Rugby Australia on failing to manage their finances properly, and that they shut down the Rebels because they have failed to manage their own books in the sense that it was Rugby Australia's fault, basically. So yeah, they're gonna go through that and see how that's gonna go. I do remember when the Western Force was pushed out of the Super Rugby a few years ago. Was it? I don't feel it's like what, like 8-9 years ago now at this point. They were basically they did sue Rugby Australia as well for prematurely terminating their contract, and they lost. The Western Force lost, and they had, not only that they lost, but they had to pay Rugby Australia for all the lawyer fees and legal fees that they had incurred on defending themselves. So this might be the same case here, because I think, I don't know the contract I think that back then there was basically like a clause in the contract that the team had to perform to a certain standard, and if should Rugby Australia feel like they're not performing to that standard, they had the right to shut them down. That was basically what happened to the Western Force, and whether that's going to happen for the Rebels or not, we have to wait and see. And hopefully the Rebels lose this one, because the management, waste some more of their money, the dad's money, I guess, and maybe hand some of the money over to Rugby Australia. We desperately need that. The big news out of the across the Tasman is that the All Blacks has announced their invasion squad for the Northern Tour. Big return is the man that we've been all waiting for, is Cameron Roigard. He has been so good for the in Super Rugby in the early rounds before he got injured due to a tackle, landed on his leg. His final return, he played some NPC rugby recently, and he's been named for the squad to head north. So let's have a look at the All Blacks. Let's have a look at who's got the opportunity to play a few redemption matches coming into November. They have lost a few matches last year, and they wanted to redeem those, and they will be given an opportunity to these players. So yeah, let's have a look at it. Hookers coming in: Asafa Al-Mua, and Cody Taylor, and George Bell. 2 Crusaders and 1 Hurricane. The props: I Am Groot, number 1, Tara Lomax. Fletcher Newell returned from a bit of injury for himself. Pasilio Tossi, who did really good for the All Blacks in the second blood flow test. I think he might actually get a that reserve tight hair pop position is very highly contested at the moment. Ofa Tuangafasi, the loose hair position in the reserve, and Tamati Williams, who's done really well in the starting position. Due to the injury to Ethan de Groot, he had a little neck thing, and Tamati Williams has been really good in that as well. So very highly contested in the propping positions for the All Blacks. In the locks, Scotty Barrett, Tupuvai, Patrick Tupolotu returns, and Sam Darry are the 4 that they have settled with for the November tour. Coming the loose forwards and out of the bloodline players starting to come in: Ethan Blackadder, Sam Kane, Samipeni Finau, Luke Jacobson, Dalton Papali'i, Adi Savia, and the other bloodline player, Wallace Titi, who has been absolutely spectacular for the All Blacks in the Rugby Championship, and I look forward for him to ditch out some pain to the Northerners very soon, and I will enjoy that very much. In the halfbacks now, big return: Cameron Roigard. He will be starting, I think, ahead of TJ Piranara and Cordes Adratama. The 5'8", Bowden Barrett and Damien McKenzie. In the midfields, Jordy Barrett returns from an MCL injury, and David Havili, Riku Ioane, Anton Leonard-Brown, and Billy Proctor. In the outside backs, another bloodline player, Caleb Clark. He's been so good for the All Blacks. It's almost like they've been hiding him a little bit. Such a good form, such a good shape, and yeah, just every day I look at him, I feel like he's better suited to play at center. But can't complain. His form so far at the winger position for the All Blacks. Will Jordan might get a fullback. He did okay for the. I thought it was okay. I thought it was credit. The good thing about having Will Jordan a fullback, the way he's set up, they set him up in the second Bloodstool test, is that he got more opportunity to touch the ball. And when he was on the wing, he hardly touched the ball under Ian Foster. So I think that could be a really good option going forward for the All Blacks, especially Bowden Barrett is reaching that, the end of the career for him. So Will Jordan having more opportunity to attack from fullback position is looking quite good for the All Blacks there as well. Ruben Love, the uncapped, another fullback position from the Hurricanes. He was really good for the Hurricanes. I thought he was probably going to get caught up right away, but he didn't. So he's going to get opportunity here in the November. Hopefully, Stephen Perra fed off on the Blues. Also another fullback option. Seville Reese, winger. And finally, Mark Talea for finishing off for the All Blacks there. So those are the men for the All Blacks. They have also announced a All Blacks 15 team that will be playing in the tour as well. The big one in the selection is, what's his name? We'll have a look at it in a second. So yeah, there was a big selection there, and I was expecting him to be picked up in the All Blacks. The Blues number 8, what was his name? We'll have a look at it in a second. So anyway, let's have a look at it now. Actually, let me just switch to it now. Hoskins Sotutu. Yeah, so Hoskins Sotutu has been named in the All Blacks 15. there was some talks that he could potentially go play for England. But it's going to be an interesting one. I don't think playing for the All Blacks 15 counts as playing for the All Blacks. So he's, you need a 4-year break, a 3-year break essentially before you can switch nations. And he's pretty much reached that 3 years at this point. And I'm pretty sure the All Blacks 15 do not count towards the break. So he's even playing for the All Blacks 15, he still should be able to switch for England should he wish to. He's in such good form in Super Rugby. One of the highest try scorers as well with the number 8 jersey. One of the most physical players as well. And yeah, it would be shame to see him go overseas for the English. So obviously last week Johnny's book came out and caused a bit of a stir. Johnny revealed that there was at the end of the match in the Rugby World Cup quarterfinal, Rieko had a bit of a chat with Johnny, and Johnny was not happy. And Johnny revealed last week in his book that he essentially, Rieko told him that, called him a see you next Tuesday, and told him to not miss the flight home. Something that Johnny wasn't a fan of. And Rieko, in response to that, has posted this on his Instagram with the zombies playing on the background in your head, essentially. And he's got a joker on top of his head, and he's got a home below Johnny. And no one really know what this means, but hey, it's basically saying that, hey, the joker is in Johnny's head. And Johnny had to come out and reply to that, and basically saying, hey, he just wanted to explain what happened. He got a lot of, I guess, hate from the fans, from the media for, responding aggressively towards Rieko at the end of the match. People wanted to know what happened, so he wanted to put that in the books. He did apologize officially to Joe Schmidt, who was at the time in the management for the All Blacks. He was basically the All Blacks selector, essentially, at that point, and apologized to him for his behavior. So he's sort of like, he just wanted to, settle that with his book, and explain that with his book. And yeah, he just felt, yeah, it is nothing sinister. Just trying to make a few bucks, sell some books, Mr. Johnny. And with that being said, let's move on to the next big news. The Wallabies continue to bleed out on their players. Nick White is potentially looking at going overseas to the Exeter Chiefs. I think he played at Exeter in the past, and they're looking at bringing him in as a last option. Exeter was looking at bringing in Hastings. What's his name? No, sorry, Ben White. Hastings. Ben White from Scotland. And so they instead looking at potentially bringing in Nick White. Is that White? Ben White? Yeah, so they went for one White to the other White. They probably did a database search, and then they found that, hey, Nick White's name right underneath Ben White. And they just thought, hey, we probably can just take him over instead. Another big move for in the world of rugby. Leicester Tigers it's potentially going to miss out on the Julian Montoya from Argentina, the Argentinian captain. Montoya is going to be going to the top 14 to play for Pau in France. And next up, there's been an injury for Peter Armani. It's currently unsure how long the injury is going to be, so he's still got a few more weeks to recover. He's got a bit of a hamstring injury. Hopefully, it's going to be okay to play in the November test. Not just the URC fans going to be disappointed. I think a lot of Irish fans will be disappointed if he's not able to play. Kurti Adensa has decided to go to Japan as well. Hang on, is Omani retired from Test rugby? Is there something like that? Anyway, someone let me know. I think he's actually retired from Test rugby, right? But anyway, moving on. So yeah, the Kurti Adensa has also made the move to go to Japan to the Dyna Boars. They currently kind of like middle of the pack in Japan. Middle bottom of the pack for Japan, and yeah, he's going to be making a few more money for himself there. Kurti Adensa, he's gonna absolutely rip out the competition there with the skill set that he's got there going for himself. Leicester, speaking of Leicester, the big boss, Michael Cheika, was very disappointed by the decision of the RFU to ban him for a few matches because of his, chat with the match day doctor. So there was a match a couple weeks ago where the independent matchday doctor essentially decided that Ollie Chesham had to be taken off the field permanently, and Cheika wasn't very happy with the decision. Had a bit of a chat with him, and that was considered too much by the RFU, and they resulted in the 2-match ban. There was 3 matches, was reduced down to 2, and yeah, then Cheika reflected on this. He felt like he wasn't very welcome in England based on the decision that was levied against him, and he felt that he was very disappointed, obviously, and he felt that it wasn't that big of a deal. But the official decision was that the Michael Cheika was overly aggressive with intense eye contact, and that's his crime: intense eye contact. Okay, and then he gets banned for 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean, come on, Mike, you know the RFU are a bunch of wankers, and I feel it's pretty really nothing. It's just bunch of people getting their feelings hurt, and it is what it is. Next up, this is a bit of an interesting one here. We're going to talk about this. The Lions Tour has issued a profit share with the players coming in next year. So the post-season, so essentially, the post-tour profit will be shared between the players. So I'm guessing like the DVD sales and everything, there will be a portion of that going to the players after the tour. So that's actually could be potentially quite a bit of money, right? I mean, obviously it's going to be, it's probably going to be not that much because, it's the Australian tour and no one's going to watch it anymore because it's going to be a blowout. But hey, still, the idea is there, and they could potentially, it's like you're an actor in a movie, right? Like, as long as the movie's being licensed out, you're an actor, you're still gonna get a cut of the movie. So it's maybe something like that here for the players. They're gonna get a bit of a cut for future revenue, in the DVD, like I said, DVD sales, streaming revenues, and all that sort of stuff. Post tour, they'll get a bit of a cut. I don't know how long this is gonna go for, but they should. It's gonna be quite a nice bit of coin for the players. Should this be a competitive Lions tour? Speaking of competitive Lions tour, the Rugby Australia is preparing for trying to bring up a bit more depth in the team. They have announced a Australia 15 traveling to the UK for the end of the year in a 2-match series, one against the Bristol Bear and the second one against the England A side. So yeah, I don't know who's going to even fill this team, and hopefully they don't get blown out too badly because the talent depth is just not quite there anymore currently for Rugby Australia. There was some talks of bringing back Will Skelton, and Willie Skelton thinks that he pretty much has to beg to get a spot back. He really hasn't had that much of a connection with Rugby Australia at the moment, and yeah, we'll have to see. There's definitely players available if they want to reach deep into the overseas talent pool, but is that going to be good for the long-term development? Not too sure, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. So the RFU obviously changed the Twickenham to Allianz Stadium, the same stadium as Rugby Australia, new stadium here in Sydney. Well, not here in Sydney, but in Sydney. I'm not currently in Sydney, but so they have decided to allow more, to try to generate more revenue, allow more concerts and non-rugby events to be hosted, up to 15 more non-rugby non-sporting events. So like concerts and stuff to be held at Twickenham Stadium to try to generate a bit more money. Something that was restricted for them in the previous agreement. That had basically, there was some restrictions on when and how often they can have have non-rugby events at Twickenham, which means that there was a lot of money that was left on the table, and they wanted to maximize that for the RFU, so they have decided to do that as well, to just change up a little bit more for themselves. And speaking of the November Test series, there is a big return for the Welsh team, and I'm very interested in this because Australia will be playing Wales again this November, and I do hope that we win this one because, yes, I would not take a loss from the Welsh anytime soon. But hey, Aaron Wainwright has returned for the Welsh side, and what are they saying? Well, in Wales, Hwynada, is that how you say it? Hwynada. Okay, there you go, Hwynada. We'll see. And someone will let me know if I pronounced that correctly. And there was a bit of criticism levied against Joe Schmidt this week from David Campese. Again, David Campese has been so out of touch with rugby for a very long time. I thought his comments were a little bit embarrassing against Joe Schmidt. Basically, again, criticizing him for just being a Kiwi coach who really hasn't coached in New Zealand for a very long time. He's been coaching Ireland, and he basically criticized the fact that he's not playing the Australian style of rugby. I mean, Dave, have you watched any rugby? Have you seen Super Rugby? And yeah, the so-called Australian style that Dave Campese wants to play is a counter-attacking style, which we do not have any talent to be able to do that. Let's be frank. And also, in the current, I guess, meta style of rugby that you would expect to play in the international stage, the counter-attacking style is something that the All Blacks have tried, has not been that successful against rush defense. You just end up probably losing territory and taking a high risk and get, no return. It has been, it's definitely still works at times, but it's not something that you want it to be your main focus strategy, because it's just really not going to work against the current rush defense out there. So yeah, it's really just out of touch, some of the comments that he's made. And I don't know why people keep giving him these ideas like DNA of Australian rugby, like just a joke. Come on, mate. Actually watch some rugby, please. Just actually watch some rugby before you come out and make comments like this. You really are not really. I'm not really sure I agree with the stuff that he's talking about. Speaking of Kiwi coaches, the New Zealanders are like the one team that does this the most to counter-attack anywhere on the field. So if you do want to play a counter-attacking rugby, you would actually want a New Zealand coach for that. But hey, watch some Super Rugby, Dave. Watch some Super Rugby, and you will see the problem. Finally, it was speculated last week that James O'Connor will be going to the Crusaders, and it was confirmed that he is going to be putting on the red and black jersey next year, hopefully, and that'll be pretty good. I always enjoy watching Rabbit play, and it's a shame that he didn't get that much game time at the Reds, and hopefully get some game time at the Crusaders next year. Crusaders are lacking a bit of a fly half at the moment due to injuries and so on. Obviously, Richie Mwanga has gone. And yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be good to see James O'Connor get a bit of a shot there at the Crusaders under Rob Penny. Is it Rob Penny, the coach? So yeah, let me know your thoughts about news this week. Like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully this doesn't turn out too badly. And yeah, if the camera isn't that great on the laptop, I will go and buy another camera, because I did have it. I tested this out. It didn't look this bad. When I tested out in Sydney, and I thought this camera was good enough, but yeah, it's looking at it now, it might not be as high definition as I thought it was initially. But it could be the lighting, could be a variety of different things that's causing the what do you call it, the quality, low quality here. But yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week for more news. Cheers.